And welcome to English Vibes Hub, the channel where English learning meets fun and conversation. I'm your host, Emma, and I'm super excited to be here with Liam today to talk about something really useful for all of you looking to improve your English skills. Today, we're diving into the world of phrasal verbs, specifically those that you can use in everyday conversations when you're shopping, dining, or just hanging out with friends.
That's right, Emma. Phrasal verbs can be a bit tricky, but once you get the hang of them, they can really elevate your English and make you sound more natural and fluent. I'm looking forward to exploring these with our audience. So to start off, let's talk about why phrasal verbs are so important in everyday conversations.
Absolutely, Liam. So, one of the first phrasal verbs we want to look at is pick up. Now, this can have a couple of different meanings depending on the context. For instance, if you're talking about shopping, to pick up can mean to buy something, like I picked up a few groceries on my way home. But it can also mean to lift something, like can you pick up that box for me? So, it's really about understanding the context in which it's being used.
Exactly, and that's what makes phrasal verbs so interesting. Another great one is try on. This is especially useful when you're shopping for clothes or shoes. For example, I'm going to try on these shoes to see if they fit. It's all about the action of putting something on to test its size or comfort.
That's a fantastic example, Liam. And while we're on the topic of shopping, let's talk about put off. This phrasal verb can be a bit tricky because it means to delay or postpone doing something. So, if you're thinking about buying something but decide to do it later, you might say, I'm going to put off buying that new laptop until it goes on sale. It's not about avoiding something because you don't want to do it, but more about choosing to do it at a later time.
I love how these phrasal verbs can add such depth to our conversations. Another one that's really useful, especially in a social context, is get together. This means to meet or gather with someone or a group of people, often for social reasons. For example, we should get together for dinner sometime this week. It's a great way to suggest spending time with friends or acquaintances.
That's such a friendly phrasal verb, Liam. And it brings up a good point about how these verbs can help us in various social situations. Let's consider turn down. This can mean to reduce the volume of something, like can you turn down the music? But it can also mean to refuse an invitation or offer, like I had to turn down the party invitation because I had an early meeting the next day. It's all about the context and how you're using it.
It's amazing how much nuance there is with these phrasal verbs, and I think that's what makes learning them so rewarding. Once you start using them in your everyday conversations, you'll really notice a difference in how you're able to express yourself. Let's talk a bit more about how these verbs can be used in dining situations.
Dining situations are a great place to practice your phrasal verbs. For instance, if you're at a restaurant and you're not sure what to order, you might ask your server to bring out some recommendations. Or if you've ordered too much food, you might ask them to wrap up the leftovers so you can take them home.
Those are perfect examples, Emma, and it's not just about the food itself, but also about the experience. If you're enjoying the atmosphere of a place, you might say, let's hang out here for a bit longer. It's all about using the right phrasal verbs to convey your intentions and feelings in a natural way.
Exactly. And speaking of natural conversation, let's think about how we can use these phrasal verbs to start or join in on conversations. For example, if you see someone you know at a coffee shop, you might say, let's catch up sometime. This is a great way to express your interest in talking to someone without feeling like you have to do it right then and there.
I love that example, Emma. It's all about being approachable and friendly, and using the right phrasal verbs can definitely make you feel more confident in your ability to navigate different social situations. Let's keep exploring more of these useful phrasal verbs and see how they can enhance our everyday conversations.
Sounds like a plan, Liam. And to our viewers, we hope you're enjoying this deep dive into phrasal verbs as much as we are. We're going to take a quick break and then come back with even more examples and discussions on how to use these verbs in your daily life.
That's right, Emma. We're just getting started, and there are so many more phrasal verbs to explore. Let's keep the conversation going and see where it takes us.
Before we move on, let's summarize some of the key phrasal verbs we've discussed so far. We've looked at pick up, try on, put off, get together, turn down, and a few others in the context of shopping and dining. It's amazing how versatile these verbs can be.
And it's not just about memorizing them. It's about understanding how to use them in context. That's what makes the difference between someone who knows a lot of phrasal verbs and someone who can actually use them effectively in conversation.
Well said, Liam. Now, let's think about some scenarios where our viewers might find themselves needing to use these phrasal verbs. For example, if you're planning a night out with friends, you might say, "Let's meet up at 7 p.m. and then head out to dinner." Here, meet up is a great phrasal verb for arranging to gather with someone at a specific time and place.
That's a great example, Emma, and it leads nicely into our next topic, which is all about using phrasal verbs in social invitations and planning. Let's dive into that and see how we can use these verbs to make our social interactions even smoother and more natural.
I'm excited to explore that with you, Liam. And to our viewers, we hope you're finding these examples and explanations helpful. Remember, the key to mastering phrasal verbs is to practice using them in your everyday conversations.
Practice makes perfect, as they say, and with phrasal verbs, it's all about getting a feel for how they're used in different contexts. Let's keep practicing and see how far we can take our conversation skills.
Let's do that. And as we move forward, we'll be looking at even more phrasal verbs and how they can be applied in various situations. From shopping and dining to socializing and beyond, these verbs are going to be your ticket to sounding more natural and fluent in English.
It's going to be a fun journey, and we're glad you're joining us. Stay tuned for more, and let's keep the conversation going. So, Emma, I was thinking, when we're out shopping, there are so many phrasal verbs we use without even realizing it. Like, have you ever had to try on a pair of shoes that didn't quite fit?
All the time, Liam, and that's a great example. Try on means to put on a piece of clothing or shoes to see if they fit. I remember this one time I was at the mall with my friends, and we spent hours browsing through different stores, picking up various items, and then putting them back because they weren't quite what we were looking for.
Exactly, and browsing through is another great phrasal verb. It means to look through something, like a store or a website, without a specific goal in mind. It's like window shopping, but you're actually inside the store. And then there's pick up, which can mean to lift something, but in the context of shopping, it often means to choose or select an item to purchase.
That's right, and put back is the opposite, where you decide not to buy something and return it to its place. It's interesting how these phrasal verbs can completely change the meaning of a sentence. For instance, if you call off a shopping trip, it means you're canceling it. But if you call on someone, it means you're visiting them.
I love how nuanced language can be. Speaking of nuances, let's dine out on this topic a bit more. When we're at a restaurant, we often look over the menu, ask for recommendations, and then go for a particular dish. What are some other phrasal verbs related to dining that come to mind?
Well, there's eat out, which is the act of dining at a restaurant rather than at home. And then there's take away, which means to buy food from a restaurant but eat it elsewhere. It's like takeout in some countries. I have a funny story about taking away food from a restaurant and then heating it up at home.
Oh, do tell. I love stories about food. And heat up is another useful phrasal verb, meaning to make something hotter, often using a microwave or oven.
So I had ordered this delicious soup, but by the time I got home, it was cold. So I had to heat it up in the microwave. But then I realized I had run out of bread, which was supposed to go with the soup. Run out means to have no more of something, often because it has been used up or finished.
That's a great example, Emma, and it leads us nicely into socializing. When we're with friends, we often catch up on each other's lives, talk over our plans, and sometimes fall out over disagreements. Catch up is a phrasal verb that means to talk to someone to learn about their life and activities since you last met or spoke.
Exactly. And talk over can mean to discuss something in detail, but it can also mean to speak at the same time as someone else, often so that the other person cannot be heard. It's a bit like talking down to someone, which means to speak to someone in a way that shows you believe you are superior to them.
That's a good point, and fall out is an interesting one. It can mean to have a disagreement, but it can also mean to leave a place, like fall out of a window. Language is full of these nuances and multiple meanings, isn't it?
It certainly is, Liam. And that's what makes learning and using phrasal verbs so fascinating. Each one can bring up different meanings and contexts and rule out certain interpretations based on how they're used.
I'm glad we're getting into the details of these phrasal verbs. It's really helping to sort out the differences for our listeners and get into means to start doing something or to become involved in it, while sort out means to organize or clarify something.
Definitely. And I think our conversation is really paying off now. We're coming across some great examples and explanations. Pay off means to produce a successful result, and come across means to find or encounter something, often unexpectedly.
I couldn't agree more, Emma. This conversation is really clearing up any confusion about phrasal verbs, and clear up means to make something clearer or easier to understand, often by explaining it.
That's the goal, Liam. To help out our listeners and point them in the right direction when it comes to using these phrasal verbs in their everyday conversations. Help out means to assist someone, and point in the right direction means to guide someone towards the correct course of action.
Well, I think we're doing a great job so far, and I'm excited to see where this conversation leads to next. Lead to means to cause something to happen or to result in something.
Me too, Liam. This is turning out to be a really insightful conversation, and I think our listeners are following along nicely. Follow along means to understand and pay attention to something as it is being explained or happens.
I hope so, Emma. Let's keep moving forward and see where this topic takes us. Move forward means to progress or proceed with something.
Sounds like a plan, Liam, and I think we're on the right track now. On the right track means to be making progress or doing something correctly.
Agreed. Let's keep talking through these phrasal verbs and see if we can figure out some more examples. Talk through means to discuss something in detail, and figure out means to find the solution to a problem or to understand something.
I'd like that, Liam, and I'm sure our listeners would appreciate some more explanations. Appreciate means to recognize the value or quality of something.
Absolutely, Emma. Let's go through some scenarios where these phrasal verbs might be used. Go through means to experience or deal with something, often in a difficult or challenging way.
That's a great idea, Liam, and I think it will really help our listeners to understand these phrasal verbs better. Help means to assist or support someone, and in this context, it means to make something easier for our listeners to understand.
Well, let's get down to it then. Get down to means to start doing something seriously or to focus on the most important part of a task.
All right, Liam. Let's dive in and explore some more phrasal verbs related to socializing and everyday conversations. Dive in means to start doing something with enthusiasm and energy.
I love how dive in can be used in so many different situations. It's really versatile. For example, if you're at a party and someone suggests playing a game, you could say, "Let's dive in," to show you're excited to start playing.
Exactly, and it's a great way to encourage others to join in too. Now, let's talk about another phrasal verb that's really useful for socializing: catch up. This means to talk to someone and find out what they've been doing recently. For instance, if you run into an old friend, you could say, "Let's catch up soon," to suggest getting together and chatting about what's new in each other's lives.
That's a great one, Emma. I use catch up all the time with my friends. It's a nice way to show you care about what's going on in their lives, and it's also a good way to avoid feeling left out of the loop. If you haven't seen someone in a while, you can say, "Fill me in," to ask them to tell you what you've missed.
Fill me in is a great phrase to know, Liam. It's really helpful when you're trying to get up to speed on something. And speaking of speed, let's talk about the phrasal verb slow down. This can be used to ask someone to reduce their pace or to take things more easily. For example, if someone is talking really quickly, you could say slow down to ask them to speak more slowly so you can understand what they're saying.
I've had to use that one before when I was talking to someone with a really strong accent. It can be hard to understand what they're saying if they're speaking too quickly, but slow down is a polite way to ask them to enunciate more clearly. And finally, let's talk about the phrase follow up. This means to check on something or someone after a period of time to see how things are going. For instance, if you applies for a job, you could follow up with the company to see if they've made a decision yet.
Follow up is a really useful phrase, especially in professional settings. It shows that you're responsible and interested in the outcome. And I think that's a great note to end on, Liam. We've covered so many useful phrasal verbs and phrases today that our listeners can use to improve their everyday conversations.
Definitely, Emma. I think our listeners will find these phrases really helpful. And if they want to practice using them, they can always check out our channel for more conversation lessons and tips.
That's right, Liam. And we have a lot of other great content on our channel, including lessons on grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. So be sure to check it out and subscribe for more English language lessons.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of English Vibes Hub, everyone. We hope you found it helpful and informative. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content, and we'll see you in the next video.